All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome for another episode to another episode of the Couch Warrior podcast. I'm your host, as always, Mike. And today for episode 61, I'm going live to break down UFC 289 with my guy, Liam Picks Fights, one of the best people in the space, both just being positive and being nice with the betting. So great to have Liam on, as usual. Liam, thanks for coming on. How are you feeling about this card here?
Appreciate you, my man. Back to the Great White North. I'm sad my guy Chad and Hellinger isn't on the card. A lot of Canadians have made me money because people don't like betting on him. But, we got an interesting card here this weekend. 6 Canadians by proxy, if you include our girl, Diana Belbita. So, just a lot of Canadian action on a small fight card. Now we're used to 12, 13, 14 fights per card. And now we're back down to 11, kind of UFC classic here. But the main card's pretty solid, in my opinion. A lot of fun action fights. So maybe not the best card on paper, but a lot of great fights to break down. So I'm excited to do it with you, brother.
Yeah, for pay-per-view, this is so rough. This would be like a good fight night without the title fight, obviously. But it's what happens with Nunes fight cards. They do this every damn time.
I think the Charles and Benny fight is really special. And, the problem is with last week as well as this week, just a lot of cancellations, man. They can't keep a fight on the card. A lot of big pieces of these cards have just been chunked away. So what we're left with, yeah, I agree, man. It's a trudge.
But we'll do. Oh my gosh! I almost just left the studio by accident. So we'll make do as usual, and we'll hop right into the card. So first fight up, we've got Diana Belbita versus Maria Oliveira. Belbita, like Liam said, fighting out of Canada now. 14-7-0. She's 26, 5'7" with a 68-inch reach. In terms of a camp, I only saw Crew Allen on her Instagram. It says House of Champions MMA. Liam, do you know anything about that? Where she's training?
House of Champions, common MMA gym in Canada. Pretty talented group of people. I have to refer back to my notes, but I'm pretty sure there's another fighter from House of Champions on the card.
Got it. All right, and the other side, we got Maria Oliveira. She's 13-6-0, also 26. She's 1 inch shorter, but has a 1 inch reach advantage, training out of PVT. Liam, why don't you start us off, brother, if you're ready to go?
Sure thing. I mean, I'm not super impressed by either one of these ladies at this point. And that's no shame. They're both young women. They're both developing their game, and they're both doing it in front of UFC audiences. So you want to give them a little bit of benefit of the doubt. But in terms of parting ways with your money, it's a different story. And I think for Diana Belbita, right, I think she's got a lot of skills. But I also think putting it together on fight night is something that we still need to see a little bit more improvement, consistently over time. Because when she goes against Liana Jojua, who's basically a one method fighter, right? She's got to get you with that armbar. She's really got to trap you from that guard. That's exactly what she forced her way into. She's doing well at range. She's having success, forces her way inside, grabs a hold of her, falls on top, and the fight is over shortly thereafter, right? So in that fight, you're kicking yourself because you're saying, man, she could have really dominated this fight on the feet. But instead, she doesn't even, keep it there. She forces her way to the ground, ends up losing the fight. Then you see, against Gloria De Paula, common opponent between these women, she wasn't able to go out there and try and leverage takedowns in that fight against somebody who's really inefficient on the ground and really a work in progress in some of those positions. And in fact, she got dominated in the clinch in that fight and bullied around a little bit. That was probably what cost her, because it was otherwise very competitive in terms of the strikes landed. Also, her insistence on doing body work that left her open to the head. So she was trading a couple nice body shots for a few, meaningful head strikes that the judges were probably holding against her. So those were some of the things that I thought were problems with the Belbita side. But I'm not seeing anything that I love on the Maria Oliveira side to bet. So I think that Belbita is probably my pick here. I think she's going to get the job done. This is a winnable fight. It's a matchup where I think if she's smart, if she leverages her skills, her length, she can make this a winnable fight for her. But I can't part with my money on a fight like this.
Yeah, after doing the tape and looking into it, this is the epitome of right now in 2023 how MMA is, of a pass. Because which girl here is going to differentiate herself to the point where even an incompetent judge could give the right decision? Neither of them. They're going to do the same thing, both of them. They're both strikers. Both don't love to get grappled. If anyone's going to wrestle, I was going to say Belbita, but Oliveira's done it too. She did it against Gloria DePaula, shot 2 takedowns, got him. I just think this is such a passive a fight. I personally lean the other way with Oliveira. I just like her striking more. And since we're on the feet, I got to favor her, especially like you mentioned, Belbita, she'll go to the body and leave herself open. And she kind of fights tighter, but then she opens herself up. And Oliveira, while hittable, I mean, 43% striking defense now over, what is it, 4 fights? Not good. And Belbita will land a lot. But at range, I really like Oliveira's work. I like that she keeps everything straight. I'm a really big fan of strikers who can keep it tight, keep it straight. And I also really like the front kick to the body, that push kick that she uses, and she uses it a lot. And against Belbita, I think it's super useful. So I do think she wins. I do think she wins by decision, but it's going to be close. And then your money's in the judges' hands. And with the judges that we have right now, the way everything is, not a smart place to put your money, I think.
I'm totally with you, brother. I think that this is one where the less time you think about it, the better for your mental health, for everything. It's probably just for the best, right? Because if you put money on this fight and lose, you're going to be ripping your hair out. You're going to be kicking yourself. So I just think, for your sanity, for future you, leave this one alone.
Yeah. Unless one of them becomes a dog by like a margin, then I'll consider it because of the same reason I just said. I think it's going to be extremely close, but we can move on. So next up, we've got David Dvorak versus Steve Erceg making his short notice debut. Dvorak 25-0. He's 31 years old, 5'5" with a 68-inch reach. Let me check if I've got something else for his camp. I don't. So I'm going to go with Tapology unless Liam knows better. All Sports Academy is what I've got. And Erceg on the other side, he's 9-1-0. He's going to be 27, so he's 4 years younger, 4 inches taller, same reach just about. Wilkes MMA is what I have for him. I'll start us off. I'm pretty upset that the original matchup for Dvorak is gone. I thought Matt Schnell was going to honestly finish him within the first 2 rounds. I got Schnell at plus 210. I was so happy. I was so excited for the fight. And then it got canceled. And then they gave me Steve Erceg at plus 385. I woke up in the morning to it, and I was like, okay. I mean, if you're setting that line, you're telling me you've never watched Erceg fight. And if you're, in my opinion, if you're parlaying David Dvorak at minus 390, you're telling me you've never seen Erceg fight. Both of them are honestly very similar guys. They fight with very similar styles. Both of them are grapplers first. 8 sub wins for Dvorak, 6 for Erceg. Obviously, Dvorak has fought the much better competition. He's been in the UFC now. He's fought guys like Mateus Nicolau, Manel Kopp. Whereas Erceg, I think his best win is probably Shannon Ross, which is not a great look. And actually, no, I think there was one that was a little bit better. I want to pull it up. It was, let me tell you, Sung-Guk Choi, the guy who fought on Road to UFC last year in the finals, and he just won his first bout in this year's season. So that's pretty good, but other than that, he hasn't had anything close to the competition of Dvorak. And I really do believe that Dvorak's the rightful favorite because he's also a grappler. He's also very good there. He's never been submitted. But I would have put him at like minus 250 maximum because his striking, in my opinion, is a little bit deficient. I don't like what he does on the feet. I think it's very loopy. And while Erceg's not like an amazing boxer by any means, he's a pretty good striker himself. He has decent power. And I think on the feet, it's going to be pretty close. So it's going to all come down to the grappling. Erceg's best when he's on top. That's when he's really putting in the work. Can he get takedowns here? Probably. I think Dvorak will probably get them easier. But don't be surprised if Erceg reverses position. If he's able to get out of there, get the better position, get on top. So at plus 385, I said, okay, I'm in. I put 0.3 units to win just over 1. And I would have put more. I wanted to put more. The thought process was, I think it might go wider. It didn't. So then I caught plus 320 on DraftKings, and I added a little bit more to make it 0.5 unit stake total because that's what I wanted originally. I thought maybe I'd be smart, buy in early and then later, but happens. Plus 320. Like, I think you can bet Erceg up until like plus, I don't know, 275, something like that. I'd have to like really look into the numbers to give you a correct thing where I'd put it. But after that, because, like I said, Dvorak is the rightful favorite in my opinion. I just think Erceg's super live. But I'll pass it to Liam now. What are you thinking, Liam?
Yeah, I think I'm gutted that the line got destroyed here on the Erceg side. contextually, David Dvorak has been knocked down twice in his last 2 fights, so once each fight. And in total, he absorbed like 88 significant strikes. So it's not like he's been on the end of, just endless fire and he's going down. It's like guys are picking their shots, guys are timing him, and they're catching him with big shots. And some of the knockouts that you see from Erceg regionally, again, we're not talking about world beaters that he's fighting, but he's fighting the best guys in his local area. He's doing what he can. He seems like he's got good management. Seems like he's had good career management. You go back and look at the fight he lost. He gave up a couple takedowns. He got hit with a couple clean shots. He's always showed a good chin. He's always showed good heart. He's always showed good scrambles, good work ethic. Came back in that 3rd round and was beating that guy's ass. Took over and, got into top position. So I feel like Erceg, if that was a 5-round fight, maybe comes on strong there and continues to push the pace. I think that he's a guy that has some upside in the UFC. Dvorak, he's not a bad fighter, though. The guys he's lost to are very solid. When you look at the Cap fight, Cap is one of the most explosive guys in the division, so you almost give him a pass there. Nicolau is kind of sneaky powerful, but he's also fragile, right? And it's one of the things that's held me back from betting him consistently because I really like betting on the guy. But then I had him against Manel Cap, and he gave me like 10 heart attacks because anytime he gets punched really clean, he just looks shaky. So that's, for me, a big problem, and he just got knocked out in his last fight against Royval. When you're looking at somebody, though, in this fight here, taking on Erceg, Erceg's a pretty big frame for the division, which is something Dvorak normally is lording over his opponents, his size and his length, and I don't think it's going to be as pronounced here. So I just think that it's a much more competitive fight than the odds entail. To your point, in terms of the mathematics, when you're looking at like plus 230, plus 233, that range, minus 233 on the comeback, then you're looking at about a 70-30 split. Even still, that sounds like a little bit aggressive here, given that Dvorak's not the cleanest finisher, not at the UFC level. So yeah, he's fought in a lot of fights that went to decision. And if they didn't go to decision, it probably was him getting finished based on what we've seen so far. So just a couple of things to keep in mind. So he's fought upper echelon guys. It's a big assignment for your first UFC outing, but it's also a big plus money number. And I think it's going to be a pretty competitive fight. Erceg's, to me, the thing I like the most about him, he's a gamer. He just seems like a guy who really wants to win. When he lost that decision, he was pissed. I just like that kind of attitude, and I think he's really going to bring it here in his debut. A lot of guys come in just to get their foot in the door, say they were there. I don't think that's what he's doing. I think he wants to really win this fight, and I think he's going to compete.
Yeah, I'm super hyped that he's coming in. He was originally supposed to fight Clayton Carpenter. I forget on which card. And I played him there too. It was early. I got him at like plus 350 against Clayton Carpenter, who's a stud, but both great spots in my opinion. So I'm glad you agree. And we can move on to the next one. We got another prospect on our hands. Blake Bilder versus Kyle Nelson. Bilder 8-0-1. He's 32 years old, 5'8" with a 68.5-inch reach. Let me check what I've got for him. I've got 10th Planet for Bilder. Nelson, 13-5-1. He's 32 as well. 5'11". He's 3 inches taller. He's going to have about a 3-inch reach advantage. And for him, I got Niagara Top Team. So if you know better, Liam, feel free to say it. And otherwise, start us off, brother.
Yeah, this is a fight I didn't have tremendous interest in. Kyle Nelson is just not a guy that is consistently winning at the UFC level, but he's pretty tough. He throws hard in the pocket. He swings. So he's not a guy that you always feel comfortable laying it against either. He competes in most of his fights, but he just has a way of finding a way to lose him late, collapsing down the stretch, not being able to go at the pace that he sets. Just certain things that are also a little bit of red flags, but now he gets the home field advantage, let's say. And Blake Bilder, not a guy that's extremely proven at the UFC level, right? He's coming in with 1 UFC fight under his belt, nice showing on Contender Series, but he's been dropped regionally. It's not like he's had a perfect run up to this point in his career, coming in as a little bit of an older prospect. So those are some of the concerns for me as a big minus 200 favorite. But then again, it's like, it implies that he wins 70% of the time, and Nelson is losing or drawing in like 80+% of his fight. It's just like, yeah, there's not really a lot to dig into here for me. I feel like both of these guys could let you down if you bet on them. Kyle Nelson, he could go to 1-5-1 in the UFC, and you'd be like, wow, I really bet on that guy. But on the other side, if you're laying minus 200, you got to have a real degree of certainty. And I don't think that I have that with Blake Bilder yet. I want to see him perform a little bit more at this level before I'm ready to invest, because I still have those skeptical eyes that I had from before the Contender Series. And I don't want to forget that, because he got one nice performance in the UFC.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not high on either guy. I've been doubting Bilder. I think I bet against him both times. I bet on Alex Morgan on the Contender Series, and then I bet on Shane Young. I was surprised with the Shane Young fight. I really didn't think he'd be able to go all 3 rounds, keep up the output, and he did. But watching it back, I just don't like his striking very much. He doesn't lead a lot, and a lot of it is just loopy, looking for those counters. But like Kyle Nelson's like nothing special either, and he's very low output, which is another big problem I have. I think both guys on the feet, it's going to be close. My problem with Bilder is even in the regional tape, we've seen him hurt just off of like glancing shots against guys who aren't very good, and he's getting hurt. He's coming back. He's never been knocked out, and he's getting submissions or winning those fights. But it's concerning, especially at the UFC level. Kyle Nelson, he might be on the lower level of UFC guys, but I wouldn't go as far as to call him a bum. He could wrestle here. And if you're looking at Bilder's fights in the Buenafente fight, right? He got taken down the first round, controlled for the entire round. Second round, also taken down, controlled until he got that triangle. I kind of have a similar read here, where I think that Nelson's actually going to get him down, and then I think he's going to get caught in something. Whether it's a guillotine while he continuously shoots, or if it's a triangle off of Bilder's back, I think that's what's probably going to happen. That's my read. I've considered playing Bilder by sub or Bilder ITD. I just don't know if I want to put my money on it, because my read with Bilder still remains the same. I don't think he's that great. And while I don't think Nelson's anything special either, he's had some close fights against some pretty decent guys. And even in the Duo Choi fight, I understand I think most of us agree it shouldn't have been a draw, but it's taking him down. He wasn't necessarily doing a lot with those takedowns. That's why I'm not really interested in Nelson here, even if I do think he can grapple. But I think he can make it very close. So right now I'm staying off. What are you thinking, Liam?
Yeah, it's just not a fight that I'm going to be betting on in all likelihood. The only thing I just want to check, I don't see any props on this fight yet either. So yeah, there's really not a lot to dig into for me. I'm just going to pass on this fight.
Yeah, my bad. I forgot you went first there, but we'll move on to the next one. We've got Aiemann Zahabi versus Aoriqileng. Zahabi 9-2-0. He's 35 now, 5'8" with the 68-inch reach. TriStar, what I've got for him. I apologize if you guys hear those sirens. I live in New York. Aoriqileng 24-9-0. He's 29. He's going to be 6 years younger. 1 inch shorter and about a 1 inch reach advantage for him. I've got him at Fight Ready, which is fantastic. So I like Aoriqileng here, and I'm glad that the line's moving the other way. I do understand why people are backing Zahabi as the underdog, especially with his last 2 performances. He looks pretty good. Draco Rodriguez was a prospect, knocked him out. Ricky Tercios, a lot of people were high on, still are. Beat him, even though that I feel like that win might have been more so Ricky being not himself than Zahabi being better. But hey, he's got a pretty decent skill set. I think Aoriqileng wins. I think he's much better on the feet personally. I really like his combinations. I like his output. I like just what he does with his striking. And I feel like his problem is grappling, and I don't really see Zahabi going to the wrestling much or finding too much success with the wrestling here. So I think finally he's going to get a fight that he wants, where they're standing most of the time, and I think he's going to land a lot. The problem is he's extremely hittable. He's more than willing to take 3 to give you 1. And while Zahabi might not be the biggest output guy, he's probably going to land because of that. But I think the output of Aoriqileng, I think the fact that he lands the more damaging shots, I think that's going to be the case here as well. And the fact that I don't think there's going to be a ton of wrestling, I've got to go with Aoriqileng. I'm staying off for now, but the line's coming in on Zahabi. If I can get Aoriqileng somewhere around plus 100 or better, I'm probably going to hop in, because I do think he wins. My concern is him getting hit, but I don't really fear the power of Zahabi too much. I know he knocked out Draco Rodriguez, but I'm just not seeing it here. How about you, Liam?
Yeah, I actually think I think Zahabi is a little bit underrated. Like if you look at his UFC history, but then I do think at this point maybe he's coming down to earth a little bit, right? Because the one thing you can't outrun is age a little bit, and especially in this division, not something you really want to invest in long term. Guys at a 6-year age disadvantage here. But the one thing I will say is, I was tempted by Zahabi plus 130 when I first saw it, because I just think of him as a more skilled fighter. He doesn't always seem that way. When you look at his UFC resume, he's got that one really bad knockout loss too, but you've seen him fight much more defensively ever since. And so is he Dana White's favorite fighter? No, God, no. They're not even watching when he's on the screen, but he is, Firaz's brother, right? So they like to, I think, give him a little bit of play, give him winnable fights, give him fights that he can compete in, because he doesn't compete all the time either. And I think that he's just a guy that sticks around and takes fights where, like you said, you don't expect a lot of wrestling here. I think Zahabi prefers fights where he can try and move around, use slick footwork, pick his counter shots, and that's it. And he did that against Tercios, and Tercios was getting hit with counter shots, and he was like, yo, maybe I shouldn't throw 50 shots around this time because I don't like this. I feel like Aoriqileng is not going to do that. I think he's either going to kill him or die trying. Like he might actually just chase him down, throwing big shots, and force Zahabi to either hurt him or get hurt. Because Zahabi, I don't think, can take the shots very well. That's why he likes to move out of the way. That's why he likes to constantly reset the footwork so you can have fewer exchanges. But I think the fight's basically predicated on how many exchanges Aoriqileng can force, in my opinion. I think the fewer there are, the more likely it is Zahabi wins, and cleanly, because I do think he's just more technical. But I agree with you. The combination work, the pressure, those kind of things, especially coupled with the youth. If it goes to plus money, I understand why people would come in on the plus money side in this fight. Bottom line, I don't think you could lay chalk here because both guys have some red flags.
Yeah, I'm with you there, and we can move on. Next up, we've got Jasmine Jasudaviciuis versus Miranda Maverick. Jasmine is 8-2-0. She's 34 years old, 5'7" with a 68-inch reach. And I've got Niagara top team for her. Maverick 11-4-0. She is 25, so she's 9 years younger, 4 inches shorter though, and about a 3-inch reach disadvantage, training out of Elevation. Why don't you start us off, Liam?
Miranda Maverick's been something of a money train for me in the UFC, but I also think that it's kind of difficult to project this one out. The reason being, Miranda Maverick, very dominant top game, very good grappler, good wrestling. That's what I really love about her game. I think that's where she's at her best. She's also very smart. So she makes a lot of good decisions. You don't have to, yell at your screen a lot when she's fighting. And when she lost to Erin Blanchfield, that's one that I saw coming. When she had the really difficult fight against Maycee Barber, that's one I saw coming. She's very good, but she's still a work in progress. She's still a very young girl. And Maycee Barber can match a lot of her physicality. And she throws a lot of strikes. I thought she probably lost that fight, but I could see beforehand why that would be a really competitive fight, right? This is one where Jasmine Jasudaviciuis, she just went the distance with Natalia Silva, right? And that was a fight where she got audited. She got beat up. She was getting spinning kicked, whatever. She's very tough. You look at the fight she's lost in her career. She doesn't give up. She doesn't quit. She's very tough and durable. In her last fight, we almost saw some regression from Maverick, or not even regression because her opponent certainly improved. But she had went from finishing this girl quickly and easily to having a much more drawn out extended fight. That for me was a little bit of a concern. She does a lot of things outside of fighting. She agreed. She, like my man here, congratulations, by the way, law school graduate here, but she's got graduate degrees. She's got a lot of feet in a lot of different fires. And so I think Miranda Maverick, John Anik sells her as like, she's going to be a future world champion. Like, I really believe in her future, but she's still young and she could still afford to lose a couple of these close fights. When you're talking about a fight where I don't know that the advantage for Miranda is so significant that she's going to finish. It's in Canada. Could we see some biased judging in a women's fight that goes to decision? I mean, guys, don't kid yourself, all right? How many times does it have to happen? How many times do you have to cry in the coffee and yell and scream at the TV? I've seen it so many times that I try and be very cautious here. And especially now when we're not talking about, it's minus a 10 on either side. I just got to take my chance with the better fighter. No, I got to lay 250 to find out. If they're not going to rob me here. Like, that's a concern. And I just think when you couple the size advantage with the home field advantage and a couple other, now you start having a couple layers of fragility at 70+% implied. So yeah, man, I'm a huge Miranda Maverick fan. I want to buy a t-shirt. She's cashed me so many sub tickets, but this is one that I think is a little bit harder to call, decisively in her favor. So for me, certainly some hesitance to lay the -250. And, depending on where this line moves, could I see myself with a +300 JJ ticket? Not going to lie. I could see myself with one of those tickets if it got out of hand.
Yeah, we're on the same page, man. I mean, I think Miranda Maverick has everything she needs to win this fight, but I don't think it's going to be like too dominant to the point where it's clear. And just like you said, we already have problems with judging, and now we're going to be in Canada with a Canadian fighter. And at this point, we just have to acknowledge that something's off. So definitely got to be careful. And because of that, my play that I'm looking at is the spread on Bet Online. It's +3.5 for Jasmine. So I did the math. You need one round for her to win, or you need her to get a finish. Either one will cash you your ticket. And it's +135. So I'm pretty interested in that because I do think she can win at least a round here. I really do. Now, winning 2 rounds, it's getting harder for me to game it out. And I would just be depending on the judges because I do think Maverick is the better wrestler. Both of them have wrestling, but Jasmine is more like throws and trips, whereas Maverick is a little bit more traditional with her wrestling. And I just think it's going to work here more. We saw Kay Hansen get a takedown on Jasmine. One of my favorite plays was Jasmine by decision and against Kay Hansen +300. Beautiful hit. But you got to know when to turn the other way. I do think Maverick will win. I really do, but I'm not. It's now -300, Liam, the best price. I'm not parlaying that. There's just no way. She's fighting a woman bigger than her who can also grapple and whose striking, I think, has come a long way. And with the reach advantage, I actually think she can do a lot with her striking. It's not like Maverick is some stud. I do think she beat Barber, but I just, even now against Shauna Young, I didn't love what I saw with the striking. Not that I love Jasmine's striking, but she's the one who's almost +300 at this point, not Maverick. So I'm going to be looking at that spread. And like Liam, if it does get crazy, like +300 JJ, I might hop on that too. Were you going to say something, Liam?
No, I agree with you. And, I'll wait and see props on this as well. If they give me a crazy number on a Miranda Maverick prop, maybe I get involved that way too. But it's just like from a theoretical perspective, I always talk about the money lines on these shows. And, just from a money line perspective, you got to think about broad long-term trends. And like when you're laying -250 at WMMA, you got to be so damn sure. You got to be sure they're going to finish. There's just got to be a lot of boxes that you check in. I think Miranda is very solid, but I'd want a worse opponent. That's one of the boxes I want to check. A girl that doesn't want to be there. This girl doesn't want to quit. Jasmine really wants to be in there. She really wants to win. And she's 34. So it's S or get off the pot time, and I think that I think she's really going to bring her best for this fight. She looks like she's in incredible shape.
Right now, Maverick sub is +400 on Bet Online, which I think isn't bad, but yeah. But we can move on to the next fight. We've got Nassourdine Imavov versus Chris Curtis. Imavov, he's 12-4-0, 27 years old, 6'3" with a 75-inch reach, MMA factory for him. Chris Curtis on the other side, he's 30-10-0, 35. He's going to be 6 years older, 5'10". He's going to be, hold on, let me math, 5 inches shorter, and about the same reach, extreme couture for him. I'll start us off. So, I mean, I had a pretty, I don't know what to call it. I posted this morning because I saw someone say that they got blocked by Chris Curtis for betting Imavov. And I was like, there's no way. Like, Chris, freaks out. I get it. But there's no way. And, I've been such a fan. So I went and looked. And, man, he blocked me. I've said such positive things about him on Twitter. But he blocked me because I bet Nassourdine Imavov. And I know people are saying, it might have just popped up on his timeline. But I'm sorry. I'm not that big of an account. I don't think I'm popping up on everybody's timelines for the For You. And I'm not the only one who bet Imavov who's now blocked and wasn't before. So it seems like the guy is actually searching people's names. Who else did that? Terrence McKinney. And look at him. I love the guy. He's super great when it's a quick fight. But he's not. It just doesn't seem like they're focusing enough. And against Imavov, even if you told me Chris Curtis is extremely focused, I'm still betting Imavov. I still bet him before all of this. I bet Imavov at -130. I have 2.6 units on him. Now I'm even more confident because I know one guy's in the gym and the other guy might also be in the gym, but he's finding times to go on his phone and search his name. And even if he is still training and not doing that, right, he's thinking about it clearly, thinking about people betting against him, thinking about all this stuff, all this stupid stuff. And I don't think it's good. I just don't. Now, putting all the narrative stuff aside, I think this is a fantastic matchup for Imavov. We've seen Chris Curtis struggle with people who move a lot. Hermanson doesn't even do that often, but that's what he did to win that fight. I understand Chris Curtis was on short notice, but at the end of the day, that's a style that he has struggled with. He really focuses on getting these counters and using his counter ability and his striking and his boxing, but he's not leading exchanges often enough for me. I understand I think right now people are just hanging their hats on this Sean Strickland thing with Imavov, saying Strickland came in on short notice. He bodied Imavov. Chris Curtis trains with Sean Strickland, so obviously he's going to be ready for Imavov. The logic there just doesn't logic for me. It doesn't make any freaking sense. First of all, how many times have we seen that scenario where a guy beats someone and then his teammate fights the same guy? Has it always been a guaranteed W? No, it has not. And also, the styles of Sean Strickland and Chris Curtis couldn't be more different if they tried. When have you seen Sean Strickland sit back and look for counters? Ever. He doesn't do that. He leads exchanges, uses his pressure and output. Chris Curtis is the exact opposite. He doesn't use his output. He doesn't use his pressure. He doesn't lead exchanges. He's looking for those counters, and I never bet against guys like that. I don't like betting on guys who are low output, just counter strikers. I have backed Chris Curtis in a few spots, but against someone like Imavov, I don't think it's a good spot for him at all. And another thing with Imavov is this cardio thing that people have been saying. And they were saying that even leading up into the Strickland fight. And I get it. Maybe you've seen it a few times, but I haven't seen anyone talk about the fact that in the Phil Hawes fight, who was fresher in round 3? Imavov. Who was the one who almost finished the guy? Imavov. So it's not like he's always just gassed in round 3. And I don't see what Chris Curtis is going to do here to gas him. I just don't. And I don't expect Imavov to try to wrestle too much because Chris Curtis has 100% takedown defense, and it is not fraudulent. He's really good at keeping it up on the feet. Can Imavov get one if he surprises him? Sure, but I don't think it's a smart game plan. I think the guy needs to do what he does best, which is stick and move, win the fight using his striking, moving around a lot. Whether he finishes Chris Curtis, I don't really think so. I think it'll probably be a decision, but I think it's going to be a relatively dominant decision for Imavov. So that's what I'm thinking. How about you, Liam?
Yeah, I kind of have gone a little bit back and forth on this fight. You know, my initial read was definitely on the Imavov side here. But then I look back at the quality of competition for Chris Curtis, and it's been quite high in the UFC. And he's come through in a few spots where maybe he high rolled his win condition and things like that. But I mean, the Brendan Allen win, that's aged like freaking fine wine relative to a lot of wins, right? And speaking of teammates going out there getting the same win, both Sean Strickland and Chris Action Man Curtis gave the body bag to Brendan Allen. They're like the only guys to do it in recent times. So that would just be one little tidbit. But as far as Imavov goes, he was one of my favorite prospects in the middleweight division. But the egg that he laid against Strickland really put a little bit of pause to the cause for me because, number one, Sean Strickland, has a little bit of a questionable chin, right? He's very good at MMA, but he puts his chin constantly on the line. He's not afraid to get hit by anybody. So then he takes these bombs in every fight. And sometimes like Elijah Zaleski at 170 and other times like Alex Pereira. I know they're big hitters, but like he does put his chin on the line. He's been hurt in other fights as well. I thought Jared Cannonier kind of wobbled him a bit. But then you look at the Imavov fight and he gassed out so quickly there, in part because Sean, he's willing to invest long-term. He'll touch you to the body and just wait until you start getting tired and then start unloading with his combinations a little more. And the one thing about Chris Curtis is he's patient. He doesn't really quit in his fights. So you really got to kill the guy. You got to knock him dead, which I think Imavov could do. They call him the Russian sniper. It's not for no reason. He's got good kicks. He's got good, long, straight punches. But I do think the more tired you get, right? One of the things Chris does do well is he counters to the body. And when you're like starting to wince and starting to wheeze and starting to take deep breaths and somebody catches you with a body shot, that could be something that shuts you off. And just some of the reactions I saw, Strickland can't finish his dinner, right? Like he doesn't even have an interest in doing it. He's a sadist. He just wants to be out there touching you more, punching more, hurt you more, cut you more. Like that's what he wants to do. But you know, when you look at Chris Curtis, he wants to finish people. And most of the time he has to, because he'll be behind on the scorecards, like you mentioned. So that's the one thing for me is I do think Chris Curtis in this fight, especially how pissed off he is, you know, he might come in here and try and turn up the pressure. And a lot of money's on the over. A lot of money's on the over here between two guys that both have a point to prove, you know, coming off that last fight. Probably don't like each other's camp, probably don't, not very fond of each other's face. And I think that it's going to be a violent one here. So I'm kind of leaning towards the under as my look here, because I think that these boys are going to throw down. I think it's going to be a lot of strikes landed. You know, Chris Curtis, you can't say he's got good defense. He's eating 6 strikes a minute, but you could say that he's got good counters and he knows when to throw back. And normally he's either going to, you know, throw back a lot and win the fight, or he's going to end up chasing you around. You know, it's one or the other. And I think that for me, I expect that this fight's going to get violent.
Honestly, the second you said that, I wanted to pull it up, and under 2.5 is plus 135. Fight doesn't go is plus 120. I think those are really interesting looks for all the reasons you said. I think it makes a ton of sense. And it also kind of covers your ass if you're on Imavov, because if Chris wins, he's probably winning by knockout. I don't really see how he wins by decision here. And I am probably going to hedge a little bit by doing like Chris Curtis round 3 knockout, something like that. FanDuel will probably give plus 2,000 on it. I'll probably throw a 1/10 of a unit there. But yeah, I'm confident on Imavov. I think the body shots thing you said, though, is a really good point, because Chris Curtis does have nasty body shots. But we can move on to our next one. So we've got Eryk Anders versus Marc-Andre Barriault. Anders is 15-7-0. He's now 36, 6'1" at the 75-inch reach, training out of Fight Ready MMA. Barriault 15-6-0. He's 33, so he's 3 years younger. Same height, giving up 1 inch in reach, and he's at Sanford MMA now. What are you thinking, Liam, for this one?
Yeah, this is one where I'm leaning towards the underdog in Eryk Anders here. Marc-Andre Barriault, he is a good fighter, right? He's a solid all-rounder, but he just never blew me away. And he's a Canadian talent. They're giving him a winnable fight against a guy who's kind of just been pretty middling in the UFC for a while. But I called the Dawkins knockout prop. That was my Action Squad, you know, prop pick of the week. I was very happy about that because I felt like he was being underrated in how much power he has. You know, against Darren Stewart the first time, he absolutely blasted the doors off that guy, and he was so anxious to get his finish. He threw the knee, ends up getting the fight called off, and then they do it again, and he kind of was a lot more reserved in that fight. I could tell that he wanted to make sure he won a decision, covered his ass, won the rounds, looked for takedowns, things like that. You know, the Nunes loss, I'm not really going to hold against him. You know, he's had really good submission defense throughout his career. Went against a really high-level black belt, he got caught in an armbar. It's like, yeah, for career preservation at his age, got to tap there. You know, you just got to live to fight another day. And he's gotten some work with the guys at Renzo Gracie Philly, but he's also been training at the MMA lab. For this camp, training with Jerry Cannonier, who's got an upcoming UFC main event.
He's out of Fight Ready now, Liam?
So, yeah, he left Fight Ready for the MMA lab, according to interviews this week. And I have not heard the interviews. I'll go back and listen, but I've read the articles. And so for me, that's another interesting point to be training with Jared. You know, that's a middleweight contender. That's a guy who you want to be getting good looks in when you're Eryk Anders. And he's been around for a long time. He's never lacked for athletic potential, but he kind of stagnated for a long time. He was in Alabama. He wasn't getting great training partners. He was the best guy in the room, and he didn't have the coaching here, there, and everywhere. And I feel like this is a time when he could win this fight. He could come on strong. I feel like he has grappling in this fight, where I don't think he's going to submit Marc-Andre Barriault, but I don't think Marc-Andre Barriault is going to have an easy time out wrestling Eryk Anders. You know, I think that's going to be very nip-tuck. I think Eryk is the more impressive guy physically. Then as far as the striking goes, I think that MAB, you know, he's much more likely to throw volume here. But I also think he's much more likely to get caught on the return with big shots because he's constantly throwing volume. And I don't think he's going to hurt Eryk Anders with his volume unless it's round 3 and Eryk's huffing and puffing and needing an inhaler like Greg Hardy. I think that he's going to be out there throwing bombs back in the direction of MAB. And we've seen his durability comes and goes. You know, Chidi Njokuani just fight's over. It's like before it ever got started. And all that we heard in the lead up to that fight is how he's so durable. It's still 185 pounds. You know, it's still guys throwing insane shots at each other's brain. I don't think MAB is like immune to getting knocked out. And he's also tested positive, right? When you just like peel it back and start looking at the record, I think he's 3-3 in the UFC as well. So he's kind of just been all right. He's been a very average fighter, I feel like. And I think Eryk Anders has underperformed. So I think that this is another chance for him to come through short dog, kind of exceed expectations. And I'm leaning towards the Eryk Anders side. I haven't bet the fight, though.
Yeah, we're lined up here. Hold on. I have to give my arthritis dog a little lift. Come here, buddy.
In the meantime, I'll just shout out the Action Network Prop Squad, plus 600, Eryk Anders. We're in the building.
But all right. Little guy has arthritis. Got to help him out sometimes. But honestly, yeah, we're aligned here once again on the underdog, and I'm pretty surprised. But I thought on first glance, when I saw the line, when I saw everything, I was like, all right, this is probably Barriault winning. Let me check it out. And then I'm on Anders. I'm going to bet him, I think. I'm still deciding if I want to bet the line right now, if I want to wait and see if it flips. Money's coming in on him right now, but it's been back and forth all week. So I'm going to do my best to read the line. We'll see. I'm definitely going to put at least a half unit on him, if not a full unit. I don't see Barriault melting him with the pressure, which is how he usually wins. And kind of like how you mentioned, who's he really beaten in the UFC? Azaitar, the older one, who's horrible. He beat Dalcha Lungiambula and wasn't the easiest win. And then he beat Jordan Wright. And then Julian Marquez in a fight that honestly he was losing, in my opinion. Julian Marquez was winning that fight until he wasn't, until Barriault brought that pressure and finished him. I just don't think that pressure is going to have the same effect on Anders. I think that Anders on the feet is going to be pretty close. I honestly can't tell you who's the better striker. I like the technique of Anders quite a bit. Barriault's going to have the output without a doubt, so maybe it'll even up there. But I do like the technique from Anders, I think. And I think his wrestling is going to be a decent thing to use here. Marc-Andre Barriault hasn't always had the best takedown defense. He has been taken down by guys like Dalcha, by Jordan Wright of all people. Of course, he did get back up, and he ended up getting, I believe, a guillotine on Jordan Wright. But that was Jordan Wright. And Eryk Anders has shown a good ability to wrestle. In the Park fight, he was the one who took Park down, something that Park usually does himself, and a fight that a lot of people felt Eryk Anders won. I'm not going to say anything because I bet on Park, but watching it, I totally get the frustration from anyone who backed Anders. I think that he's going to have physicality here. I think that wrestling is a really good angle for him. And on top of that, I think the striking's close. It's just the output that's a big difference for me. So I really like Anders here as well, and I do think I'm going to get to a bet with him.
I also had 6 units on Jun Young Park, and Eryk Anders won that fight.
Feels like he did, right?
Oh, the money was as green as I thought it was going to be. And I read the market as well as everything else. So when the market tells me something, I try and trust it. And that fight went to decision, and it went the way I thought it was going to go. That's all you can hope for in this game. It'll break your heart otherwise. So that's all you can hope for.
Yeah, I stopped complaining about robberies because I win off of them so many times also that it's just like, it's fair game. It happens.
I had Collier versus Arlovsky, right? It gives and it takes away this game.
I had Arlovsky.
Dude, 6 units at plus money.
I felt so dirty. I felt like I need to return everybody their money. If only I could. I had to take a shower after that. I was like, damn, it's nice to cash the ticket, but what the hell was that?
Dude, if Dontel Mays did not knock that man out, I could just tell you the scorecards were already written. 29-28 Arlovsky.
That was one of those fights I passed, and I was like, you're learning, Mike. You're learning. That was a good pass. But, all right, we can move on to probably a very violent fight. We've got Dan Ige versus Nate Landwehr. Ige, 16-6-0. He's 31 years old, 5'7" with a 71-inch reach. Extreme couture for him. Nate, he's 17-4-0. He's going to be 4 years older at 35. 2 inches taller, 1-inch reach disadvantage, and I've got him at MMA Masters, unless you know any better, Liam. I'll start us off here. I like Dan Ige. I think just skill for skill, it's Ige all day. What Landwehr has going for him is his pressure, his output, and mostly the pressure. He's relentless. That's how he breaks guys. That's how he beat guys that probably should beat him. He's just relentless with it. And there's a reason he was a champion back in Russia in M1. M1's not the best promotion ever, but you know who else was a champ there at the weight class under him? Evloev. So they had really good guys out there. And I think that's kind of where his good takedown defense came from, because we've seen a pretty good takedown defense from him. Do I expect Ige to really wrestle? No, but he could. He could. We have seen it. If I'm not mistaken, he did it twice against Emmett. So I do think Ige could wrestle here, but I don't think he has to. I think other than the output from Landwehr, Ige is the better technical striker. In my opinion, he hits harder, and Landwehr is so hittable. I mean, he's just there to be hit. I think it's worse than Aoriqileng. He's just like, hit me, please, and then he'll hit you back. But I just think that Ige is going to knock him out at some point. I really do. I don't have a money line play here just because I don't really want to lay minus 240 on Ige, because I wouldn't be shocked if Landwehr pulled something off with that pressure. I mean, the guy's got that dog in him. He's not going to give up until he's sleeping. So it's hard to back a guy against him as a favorite, but I like the under. I played plus 113 under 2.5. I put a half unit on it. Nothing crazy, just because Ige is very durable. And I think most of the finish upside is on him. But I chose the under rather than him ITD, just because I do respect Landwehr's pressure. Like I said, he's an agent of chaos. And would I be completely shocked if he found his own finish? No. So I feel comfortable with the under, because I feel like it covers both guys' most likely win conditions here. But I wouldn't be shocked if Ige also just won a decision. So I kept it a half unit. What are you thinking, Liam?
Yeah, this is a fight where, my gut read is that Dan Ige is going to win the fight, just because he's got 3 really big intangible advantages. I think he's got more power. I think that he has better, ability to manage fights. So call that decision making, like whatever you want to call that. Like when he gets hurt, he does the right things. He falls back. He holds on to the guy. He closes space. When Nate Landwehr gets hurt, he's like, let me throw more. Let me swing. Get in your face. He pursues the fight, with no care for his own physicality. And then the last thing here is just that Nate Landwehr has a huge disadvantage here in durability, in my opinion. He just randomly gets knocked out sometimes. He's a very tough guy, really wants to be in there, but just like has the fights where things quickly go off the rails. And I feel like since he's been at MMA Masters, which he is still training there, he's probably one of the top prospects or top fighters coming out of that gym right now. You got Colby Covington, you got him, and my guy Themba Gorimbo, coming up in the back there. So I think that as far as Nate the Train is concerned, the problem with winning this fight, or the reason I think it's going to be very difficult, is that Dan Ige is so durable. When he gets hurt, he makes the right decisions to recover. He's been hurt to the body. I think that's what Landwehr's going to have to be really smart. He's going to have to do the tape, and he's going to have to target this guy to the body, because Dan Ige's got a hell of a chin on him, and he throws with a lot of power. You don't want to be in his range too much. I think Landwehr's going to want to try and throw kicks, going to want to try and be a little bit on the outside. And when he's inside, he's got to try and land 3, 4, 5 in a row, because Dan Ige could change the complexion with one. Ask Gavin Tucker, Canadian young man of his own, took the quickest body bag ever. People ask you sometimes about the bets that went wrong for you. That is one of the bets that is just the worst in my memory bank. Gavin Tucker just instantly gets folded with the first punch of the fight. And I think that could happen to Landwehr here. He just doesn't have great durability, but he's making steady improvements despite his age, and I feel like the Onama fight, we saw a little bit more effing around and things like that, where he felt like he had a clear advantage. And you don't want to see that if you're betting on a guy at chalk or anything, but he will fight for your money as an underdog. So can't blame anybody for it, but I just think Dan Ige, a little bit of a bridge too far, and I think Dan is probably going to hurt him.
Agreed. Liam, I think we're being watched. Eryk Anders dropped all the way to plus 104. It was plus 135 when we were talking. Someone's in here.
Dave Mason, stop watching the program, bro.
Now I'm stressed, bro. I'm like thinking, is it still worth it on FanDuel? But we'll see. It's plus 120. I'm not even going to say it now, now that we're being watched. Next up, we've got Mike Malott versus Adam Fugitt. We're going to say it that way. Malott 9-1-1. He's 31 years old, 6'1" at the 73-inch reach. I believe he has been a Team Alpha Male, but based off of his Instagram, he's training somewhere in Canada. I can't tell you exactly where. Maybe Liam can. But Fugitt on the other side, he's 9-3-0. He's 34. He's 3 years older. Same height, 4-inch reach advantage. Art of War MMA for him. Why don't you start us off, Liam?
This is a fight where I think, it's a little bit wide on the money line side, because Fugitt just is not an easy guy to beat. right? You look at Michael Morales, who's a huge favorite in that fight, and Fugitt gave him a lot of pressure. He brought a lot of fight to him, and Morales did a good job dealing with it. But, Fugitt showed that he's not a guy that you can have pushover wins against. Even the stoppage there, a little bit on the softer side. I'm a guy that's more, people would definitely think I'm on the softer side of stoppages, right? I don't want people to take shots that they don't need to take when they're Jose Aldo against Piotr Jan. That was disgusting. He should have been stopped like 5 minutes earlier. Like just certain things like that. I'm definitely, leaning towards let's be safe rather than sorry. But I felt like that was a little bit of one of the softer kind of stoppages that you'll see. Because Fugitt wanted to get back up and get back into it. But then he also was like, you know what? I've taken a lot of shots tonight. I'm here on short notice. I'll come back stronger and better. And I thought that's what we saw from him. He bounced back in a big way. And I think he's just a guy that's got well-rounded skills. He's pretty big for the division. So he's a hard guy to count out. Is he 34 years of age? Yes. Is that a minor concern? Yes. But he's also shown that he can go long. And one of the things I'll point to is just, I mentioned this on my first look this week. When you look at this guy, Solomon Renfro, very talented fighter on the regional scene, but he's had a little bit of hard times against these two guys. In particular, he fought both of them, right? Common opponent. And when you look at the fight that he had against Malott, he was whooping Mike Malott's ass. Okay. He was walking him down, landing every punch he wanted, every shot he wanted, kick, punch, boom. I felt like he was really rocking him backwards. He did some damage to Mike Malott's face. And then all of a sudden, Mike Malott goes counter left hook, drops him, and instantly hops on the neck and had it before. Like he had a no hooks rear naked choke that was so money that the fight was already over. And then he found the hooks after. It was beautiful stuff. He's got beautiful finishing instincts. I think if he hurts Fugitt in this fight, unlike a Michael Morales and some of these guys, he's going to go for a choke and he might just get it. Okay. It's very high plus numbers on the sub prop. I'm going to wait and see what it opens domestically. But I watched, what's his name? Nick Maximov, former UFC fighter, grapple Adam Fugitt in Submission Underground, Chael Sonnen's organization. And it was just a no-gi grappling match. And Adam Fugitt got submitted in brutal fashion with a guillotine. And it was a high elbow guillotine. It literally looks exactly like Mike Malott's guillotine. If you've ever seen the Simon Smotrisky fight, there's no strikes landed. Mike Malott literally just instantly submits the guy when he tried to take him down with his guillotine. It's money. And if there's one thing I feel like I know pretty well in jiu-jitsu, it's guillotine mechanics. It's what you need to do to finish. I always go for it myself. It's what I love to do. So when you look at how Mike Malott approaches his guillotine, it's very good stuff. He either goes to the high elbow or he's going to the prayer, or he's normally solidifying a grip that makes it tighter, that forces the opponent into a worse position, that eliminates the ability to flat back. And you talked about it. He spent a lot of time at Team Alpha Male. What's the best gym for learning how to guillotine in the history of MMA? Some would say it's there. So, I think that Team Alpha Male, that's one of the things that they do well. Malott has a lot of fundamental striking on the feet, but I don't love his defense. And I think that's the thing that makes me lean towards the under here. It makes me lean towards Fugitt as the potential money line side. But again, with that being said, I think the ends by sub and the Malott sub lines are probably going to be a little bit wide here. I think all the sub props are probably going to be wide here. Basically, I think everybody expects this to play out on the feet. But both of these guys have good instincts to finish. And I think if they get the other guy hurt, they're going to try and grab a hold of something because they're both very tough. I think Mike Malott maybe has some questions about his toughness, that are lingering out there from old fights and things like that. But I don't think that that's going to be a problem for him. I just think that, he takes a lot of damage because he doesn't have great defense. He's got great offense, like a lot of MMA fighters. But on the comeback, he takes a lot of shots. And Fugitt, he's a tough guy. So he's not going to go down to the first big punch here, in my opinion. That's going to make the other guy say, all right, he's a tough guy. I'm going to choke him out. He can't be a tough guy in a choke. You just go to sleep. So that's what I expect here. Somebody's probably getting choked.
Yeah, so I've got a few thoughts here. I mean, my gut reaction is honestly still my reaction. I think Malott wins ITD, most likely. And honestly, I thought the line was kind of fair. So first off with Fugitt, as MMA bettors, we're so short-term memory. Like, our memory is so short-term. People just remember either bets they won or lost and just bet based off of that, and I've fallen for it too. But people are so excited about Fugitt now because he beat Kinoshita. I bet on Fugitt there against Kinoshita, cashed a beautiful ticket. It was awesome. But styles make fights. Kinoshita, even on the regionals, had a terrible ground game. So anybody who watched that understood that if Fugitt is going to grapple, he could win. He's very live, and that's exactly what happened. The problem with Malott is there hasn't been something clear like that. There's nothing really to evidence that he can be taken down easily and controlled on the ground. In fact, from what we've seen, it seems kind of unlikely. It seems like he has very good jiu-jitsu. He's got really nice back takes. I believe he took Renfro's back standing, if I'm not mistaken. So the guy is slick. And Fugitt, in my opinion, he's a dog, but I don't think he's ever going to even hit like top 15 or even top 20. Like, I don't think he's anything too special. His striking is pretty good, but I think I give the edge to Malott. And like I said, I give the jiu-jitsu to Malott too. The offensive wrestling, I think I've seen it more from Fugitt, so I'm going to give it to him. And I have seen Malott taken down by guys like, what's his face? Mickey Gall, CM Punk's dad. He got taken down by him. And honestly, on the feet, I also had a problem there because I felt like Mickey Gall was landing way too much on Malott than
That's what I'm saying, dude. In terms of the defense.
That was pretty problematic to me. And then against Johan Lainez, though, I thought he did look better there. But I don't know if Fugitt's the guy who's going to expose him on the feet. And the more I game it out, I have a hard time seeing Fugitt also out-grapple him. So I lean Malott. Whether I'm going to play anything, I don't think so. You mentioned the sub props and stuff. Actually, the sub prop and KO prop are almost the exact same price, believe it or not. So the bookies are split there. If I did anything at this point, it's either going to be Malott ITD or a small dock shot on Fugitt, because something we haven't mentioned with Malott is he hasn't been out of round one in 12 fights other than one time in Bellator, which was a disgusting draw. If you've seen that fight, it was nasty to watch. You have to wash yourself after. But everything else ended in round number one. So what's going to happen with this modern Malott that we have after round one? We don't know. So it's hard for me to really put anything. Maybe that's why some people are confident in Fugitt, because they think, all right, Malott's never been out of round one. It'll hit round 2, 3. He'll get tired. Fugitt will take over. I don't know. At plus 175, I just feel like it's not enough to go with the dog. If it hits like plus 200, I'll take a shot. I'll take a half unit shot because of the stuff I said. Malott, more hittable than we expect. Look at Mickey Gall. Can be taken down. Look at Mickey Gall. And hasn't really been out of round one ever, except for one fight. So, and that was 2015. So to bet on him is risky. To bet on Fugitt, I think, is risky. So for now, it's a pass for me, unless the odds really change up.
I feel you for sure. The point that I was making that I forgot to finish was that in the common opponent matchup, Malott had a really tough time and then ended up finishing him in dramatic fashion, and it was awesome. But then you look at the fight that he had with Fugitt, and it was not competitive for 1 second. Fugitt came out, threw like a million kicks, and just like
it was
never gave him a chance. Well, basically, but dude, he never gave him a chance with the kicks, and that's the one thing for me with Malott. Is like I expect 100% Fugitt is going to sprint across the cage and try and kick him as hard as he can, like 10 times in the head. And what happens from there is anybody's guess. But that for me is a fight where I'm like, I'm taking the under and not getting cute.
Is the under playable though? I feel like not at all.
It's probably not. I haven't checked.
Even gross. On like minus 255 is like on Bet Online
for the 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll have to look at the alternate under. I could see it ending.
Oh, the under 1.5?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what DraftKings gives. That might be a good look, considering, like I said, literally 11 of 12 fights for Malott, round number 1. So under 1.5, if it's plus money by some miracle, I think that's a play. Even though I hate under 1.5, Liam, I'm not a fan. If you give me a 1.5 and you say do something, I'm more than likely going to do an over usually, but this would be an exception, that's for sure. Maybe a parlay piece for the under. I don't like almost anything here to parlay. The only two things so far would be maybe Dan Ige and this under. Maybe that'll be something I do. I don't know. I've been very light on parlays recently. Just not a lot of stuff I like.
I'm always light on parlays, brother.
Dude, it's my most profitable thing, and it's always been my thing. but just recently I'm not seeing enough. Like I feel like there's just not enough like good spots to parlay. So I've been very light. But
when it presents itself, take it. But when it's
hell
not
yeah.
there, never a need to
Never
force it.
Never force it. That's a hard lesson I had to learn. But all right, we're on to honestly, not probably. I'm pretty confident to say this is the best fight on the card. We've got Charles Oliveira versus Beneil Dariush. Oliveira 33-9-0, 33 years old, 5'10" with a 74-inch reach. Shoot box for him. Dariush 22, 4-1, 34. He's 1 year older, same height, 2-inch reach disadvantage. Training out of King's MMA with our guy Wiz Wiz does now. My guy. It was mad funny, Liam. When Dariush was supposed to fight, when he did fight Gamrot, I had Wiz on the show, and Wiz was betting Gamrot against his coach Dariush, and someone in the chat called him like a snake, like TJ Dillashaw. And I thought it was the funniest shit ever. And then he lost too.
Dude, that was Benny Goat status, dude. He went Super Saiyan in that fight.
Proved me hella wrong. I was all over Gamrot there.
Me too. Me too.
For this fight, why don't you start us off, Liam?
For sure, man. I think this is a fascinating fight, right? Going back and rewatching these guys is plain fun. So that's why this is the best fight on the card by a long shot. The thing is, I always like to think about motivation. It's something that they talk about in sports betting outside of MMA all the time, and not as much in MMA for whatever reason. A lot of people like to talk about analytics, and they like to talk about what they see in front of them in the cage. There's nothing wrong with that, but these are also human beings, right? And like, if I don't try my best, I could be really good at something and lose. Okay. And if I don't care about winning and losing, and the other person really cares, how often do we see this in our own lives where we're like, yeah, I don't give a shit. All right. Yeah, you won. Very nice. Some people are at a point in their career where winning and losing is like, whatever. I'm not saying either one of those guys is at that point, but I'm just trying to draw the point that motivation matters, right? Who wants it better is a lot of what we're doing here. We're trying to find out who wants it better, who's willing to suffer more, who's willing to go longer, who's willing to get more tired. That's the question of a fight. So as far as I'm concerned here, I know that Beneil Dariush is willing to go through a lot of suffering right now to become a champion. I think that he's a very dangerous fight for everybody. The other thing is Charles Oliveira is no pushover, but he pulled out of this fight once. That's a problem, a little bit of a concern for me, right? Don't like to see him hopping right back in after the cancellation. We saw Willie Cat Santos do that, became a sloppy, uglier fight maybe than we all expected, right? So a couple of things to think about there. But on top of that, right, same camp also, by the way. Both of them pulled out. Maybe there's trouble in paradise. But anyways, back to this fight, right? Beneil Dariush, he just does everything right. And I think he's got a great relationship with Rafael Cordeiro at King's MMA. Rafael Cordeiro is always saying the right thing in the corner, right? He's just saying everything that you want to hear. When he's in the corner against Gamrot last time, he says, you won round one, but I prefer to say that you lost round one. Like, what coach says that? But it's brilliant, right? He's saying, like, don't go out there and think to yourself, I won this round, so I can coast and I can half-ass it and I can, maybe he takes me down and I just give it up. No, nothing. Get the most out of your athlete. And he got the most out of Beneil Dariush that night against a younger guy who's very dynamic, who's a beast, who can go all night. 16 takedown attempts. We talk about Marab. We talk about these guys. 16 takedown attempts at 155 pounds in a 3-round contest. And this guy defended 13 of them, right? Beneil Dariush is a handful. The ones that he didn't defend, by the way, the ones where he gave up a takedown, almost invariably, my man goes ass over tea kettle. You're over him on 2 hands, right? Brilliant jiu-jitsu players get you to occupy 2 hands at all times on something that is not them. So you're like, what? Like, you're now trying to unscramble yourself with just your legs while you're holding yourself up with 2 hands. That's what Beneil Dariush does to people. Now, here's my one concern for the Beneil Dariush side, because I do lean towards Beneil, especially after going back and rewatching his recent grappling sequences. He's so fast and dynamic in the wrestling and the grappling. I just worry that he's going to be slower on the feet. And he does give up the back frequently. He is so good at jiu-jitsu. He is not worried about guys getting his back. But that has one time before in the UFC cost him dearly. Michael Chiesa hops on his back. He never got off his back, and he finished him. He's a long guy. He's got good chokes. He's got long arms. He's a crafty guy from the back. Does that sound like anybody else that you know that's going to be fighting on Saturday night? So there's no guarantees in MMA, right? I don't think that this is a Beneil Dariush lock it up, but I just think Beneil Dariush, he's more motivated for this fight. He's never held a title. Charles Oliveira got the title. The UFC stripped him. He's had a troubled relationship with them. They wanted this fight. He didn't want this fight. He asked to take the fight. He pulled out of the fight. They made him take the fight again. The writing's kind of on the wall for me with some of those things. And I do think be foolish to write him off. I wouldn't be, too bullish on laying it against him. But also, you just got to call a spade a spade. And I think that Beneil Dariush looks like the guy who's coming right now. And I think that Charles Oliveira looks like the guy who's going right now. Just a little bit. And he's got all the records, and he's already done all these great things. I think he's the more effective submission grappler for MMA, purely submissions. But the guy who can scramble and do it all at this level and still hit with the power of a truck is Beneil Dariush. And I think he can suffer through more right now. So I like the Beneil side, but great fight. Legendary fight.
So my favorite part of doing Beneil tape is the Dvorak close fight. You know that one, right? I mean, it's very similar
one of the greatest knockouts ever.
We saw RoboCop and Leech do essentially the exact same thing. But it was a Leech, right? Not Park.
It was Shenyang Park, I think.
Park. I'm the worst. It was Park. But, dude, the Dvorak close Dariush sequence, if you guys haven't watched it, please do yourselves a favor. It's so awesome. Like, Dvorak close hurts the guy to the point where it's clearly over. And then it's not. But Dariush back on the freaking fence, lands a nice shot, close wobbles, and Dariush just bursts forward and knocks the dude out maybe 10 seconds after he was almost dead. So fun to watch. If you haven't seen that, please do yourself a favor and go check it out. But yeah, I have to think that Dariush wins here. I didn't love putting minus 130 on him, but I also felt it was kind of fair. Like, look, I love Oliveira and I love how tough he is, but how many times have we seen that chin eventually catch up? I know right now it hasn't ended in a knockout, but the dude's getting knocked down every damn time, more than once. I mean, it's like going into the Gaethje fight, it was like almost like a joke, and now it's like not even a joke because it just happens every single time. Yes, he comes back. He's got great power of his own, knocked out Chandler with a shot that didn't seem to have too much power behind it. And I mean, the jiu-jitsu game, I think, is second to none. It's disgusting. He's extremely good on the ground. I don't do jiu-jitsu. I know Liam does, but even my plain eye can see the guy is disgusting on the ground. And Dariush, he has done great at counter grappling. Diego Ferreira, for example, did great there. But I do think there's a difference between Ferreira and Oliveira, even though Diego Ferreira is also an amazing grappler. I just think it's different. Can I see Dariush getting hurt here by Oliveira on the feet? I could. I really could. But at the same time, on top of Oliveira being dropped a ton, he's also kind of just chin up in the air. Stands very straight, classic shoot box, Muay Thai style. And I think that's a problem. I think that's going to be a problem. And against a guy like Dariush who can hit hard, who does have good striking, I don't think it's something you want. Now, the big question for me is like going into it, do I want Dariush to strike the whole time? Do I want him to try to wrestle? I think I want him to strike the whole time. I would really prefer he doesn't go on the ground. I have a gut feeling that we are going to go to the ground more than once. I do think he's going to survive, maybe even establish a top position. I don't think he's going to submit Oliveira like Islam did, but I do think he could find success riding him out after surviving a lot. But on the feet, I think is his biggest edge, especially with the stuff we've seen with Oliveira. I think that damage is going to add up eventually. For example, Tony Ferguson didn't really get dropped as much, but everyone talked about how his chin was amazing. Michael Chandler, foot to the face, goes to sleep. Eventually goes away. Do I think Dariush is the first to do it? I don't know. But I think he has what it takes. And I think a minus 130 was very playable. And I think now you can't. Minus 145 now and climbing. At that point, I would stay off Dariush. But when it was like, I think it hit like even minus 120 or something, I thought that was great. I really do think Dariush wins this more often than not.
I got to go back to the tape just to see Dariush defending body locks. But, dude, the wrestling that I saw against Gamrot is just, you're just going to have a really hard time out-grappling that guy. You're just going to have a really hard time. Dude, everything about it is so high level. And, like, it's also just incredibly different than normal people do. So I don't think that it'll be easy to, find training. Like literally Beneil Dariush does things nobody else does, into the Z guard and into all these kind of weird positions where he just completely inverts himself, puts 1 foot behind you, and then he can send anybody from there. So I don't know how he does it, but you see Charles Oliveira normally has a huge grappling edge, or he gets, into sticky situations himself, right? He always has kind of been that way, submit or get submitted. And I do think Benny can out-grapple him when they get into extended exchanges, because Charles doesn't like to be out-scrambled. And I think that he could take Benny's back in the first exchange, but like the more they get into, I actually think that favors Benny. I think he's a little bit craftier the deeper you get in exchanges, whereas Charles is like, you gave me an opportunity and you're dead. That's how he plays, kind of like a Davis and Figueiredo. But I just think that when you look at who could get top time here, I think it's a little more likely to be Benny.
Agreed. And I'm so excited for this fight. And you brought it up, the motivation thing. Like, yeah, I think Dariush is a little bit hungrier just because he hasn't been there yet. But both guys are so fucking hungry that like it's going to be a good time. We are like, it's impossible. It's just impossible that it'll be boring. Just impossible. But we'll move on to our main event. I don't even think we have to
Dude,
worry.
I'm putting prayers up, bro. I'm putting prayers up. I'm going to throw shamrocks around, throw salt over my shoulder.
How could it be
if this fight isn't good, man, I have to pick a new sport because this is what we look forward to. This is like Mike's MMA pick says, the one that you mark down on the calendar,
on the fridge.
A great fight.
Hell yeah. But all right, we can move on to our main event. We've got Amanda Nunes versus Irene Aldana. Nunes 22-5-0. She's 35 years old, 5'8" with the 69-inch reach. Training out of American Top Team. Aldana 14-6-0, also 35, 1 inch taller, just about the same reach. And I believe she's still at Lobo Gym, if I'm not mistaken. And I'll start us off here. So I took Aldana, but I took her at plus 375, and I put a half unit on it. I've always been really high on Aldana. She was my second ever max bet when she fought Macy, and that was a bad max bet. I cashed it, but she was getting out grappled, and she was probably going to lose that fight until she landed her trained up kick to the liver. There's no way she trained that. There's just no way. But she landed a really clean liver shot. It was awesome. I think she's a really good striker. She does historically have good takedown defense. Macy was able to use her physicality, get her down. And realistically, I think Nunes is going to be able to do the same thing. If Nunes feels I'm not comfortable here on the feet, I think she's going to take her down and do it with relative ease. So I'm kind of confused about people betting Aldana plus 250. I don't think that's worth it. Like when it was wide, like plus 375, plus whatever, that I felt was good. Because Aldana, I do think has the better striking. I give the power to Nunes, but I think she's a better striker, and she does have things she can pull out of her pocket, like a trained liver kick from bottom. But I think Nunes is a rightful moderate favorite. Like her grappling is extremely good. She's extremely strong. And can she take down Aldana here? I really do think she will. So at big dog odds, I did it. I think it's a decent move. And another thing to mention, you talked about motivation. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Nunes has another child coming, right? Either that or it has come. I think it has not yet. But what happened the first time when she fought Pena? She just had a kid. Might be a similar problem here. Who knows? I think that Nunes is definitely at a point in her career where it's just kind of done. Like, what else is she supposed to do at this point? And it's kind of like Shevchenko, where I feel like there's these up-and-coming, hungry people who are just bound to unseat them. So I think that Aldana is much more likely than Juliana Pena to get that strap from Nunes. And I think that she's a good underdog play. But right now, if you don't have a bet in, I would wait. I don't like plus 250 enough. How about you, Liam?
I definitely lean towards there being slight value on the underdog here. Talk about motivation, right? That was something that you mentioned, and I think it's a great point because when I look at Irene Aldana, I see a fighter that is 35 years old. I see a fighter that has never achieved her dreams, right? Whereas Amanda Nunes has every dream she could ever want and then some. She's got, imagine this, right? Imagine I gave you this proposition. You could go out there and get embarrassed in the first round and you're still a world champion. Good deal. Good deal for you. Don't have to take that as seriously. Don't have to be as worried if I lose. Don't have to be as invested. Don't have to be as all in. She's the champion of a fake weight class, one above. So it's no skin off her nose if she loses this fight. She doesn't, there's not even one less Brazilian champion. It's the same. Everything's the same for her. It's the same. She just, oh, now I can't call myself double champ. I could just say I'm the GOAT. Oh no, what am I going to do? I'm going to cry myself to sleep at night. You know, I don't see that, right? I see a girl who's got a family, who's got a lot else going on. Her wife is basically like transitioning out of her MMA phase, right? They're both kind of moving on, I feel like. And when you look at Amanda Nunes, she's already got the GOAT. She's got the win over Cyborg. She's got the win over every champion there's ever been in the division. What else can you do? You can go out there and lose to Shevchenko, maybe, right? And like jeopardize the fact that you're 2-0 against it. You could do some of those things, or you could just walk away, lose this fight, say, hey, oh, the next generation, they got me. All right, God bless. Good luck. Have fun. And then move on right off into the sunset. So from a motivation standpoint, I think that's plausible. In terms of the fight itself, what is Amanda Nunes normally lording over her opponents? Extreme power. They can go out there and do technique, but she can hit you and hurt you and change your life. My jiu-jitsu coach, you mentioned, I do some jiu-jitsu. My coach, excellent trainer, Dave Maver, been around the MMA world, the jiu-jitsu world, very long time. Seen Amanda Nunes in person in the training room. Seen her knock out men. She's got the power. She is for real. She can really hit. She can diddy bop. But so can Irene Aldana. She's one of the very few women that could say that. Has a first-round knockout over Ketlen Vieira. By the way, Ketlen Vieira has basically, you know, whatever you want to say about that last fight is very close, but like Ketlen Vieira has been mostly on the right side of her fights in recent outings. You know, she's been going out there getting wins over big names in the division. So Ketlen Vieira is no slouch. She's not a bum. She's not bad. And I think the only person she didn't take down in the UFC, if my memory serves, is Irene Aldana, because she was sleeping first. So the thing was, Irene Aldana got hit in that fight. She got hit in a couple other fights. The Chiasson fight, she's a dog. She gets hit and she keeps fighting. She got absolutely audited, completely dogged out over 5 rounds by Holly Holm. I never expected to see it. That was a Holly Holm vintage performance. She was on all the sauce in the world. God bless her for it. She needed it. She was at that age. But on top of that, it looked like Aldana got hurt. She just had no answers for the fact that Holm was bullying her in the clinch. But that's not really the fight that Nunes likes to have. Sometimes, like you said, she gets uncomfortable. She starts going to the takedowns. I think that's her best path here. I think if she wants to be smart, she's going to do that. But what happened when she started getting hit in the first round against Juliana Pena? She got emotional. She got ego-driven. She's a fighter to her core. What happened when she got hit by Cyborg? She'd say, oh, I'm taking her down. You know, I don't want to feel the power. She said, let's stand right here, me and you, and figure out who's tougher right now. If she does that with Irene Aldana, you're going to feel very good about plus 285 or whatever other numbers that you find out there. So that for me is the reason I'm tempted on the dog. But when I talk about being tempted on the dog and looking at props on the favorite, you know, I think, again, I don't mean to let my jiu-jitsu biases show here, but I'm going to be looking at some sub props in this fight as well on all sides. I think that it's very likely that at some point, one of these women is trying to take it to the ground because they get hurt. And I think it's more likely to be Nunes trying to take it to the ground, whether she's hurt or not. But I think she might try and mix in takedowns if it's going well. She did that against Pena. She might try and do that just to manage and conserve energy. The one thing I think people are completely forgetting about is the fact that Amanda Nunes was gassing in wins for a long time. And people were just like, yeah, but she's so much better than every. Do you want somebody that's going to gas at minus 300? And we don't know how much cardio she's doing. Again, how motivated is she for this fight? She wanted to do the Pena rematch. Pena fight had a lot of juice on it. Why? She just lost this fight. Everything is on it. My legacy, my career. Now we're back to square one, ladies and gentlemen. We're back to, I'm the GOAT. What could go wrong? I'm the champion. Nobody wants to fight me. So, yeah, I just think that it's got to be a live underdog situation. But again, I've disclosed I'm not a parlay boy. Sometimes the parlay boys get me. I'll tell you. But I'm definitely a value guy, and I'm looking for value here on the underdog, or I'm going to pass on this fight.
Yeah, I don't think it's a move to parlay Nunes at this point. I just really don't think so. Reminds me of, wait, I know it's just because it's two women from Mexico, but the Alexa Grasso-Shevchenko fight, just, this is giving me the same kind of vibe. It's giving me
I had Alexa Grasso there.
Beautiful. I parlayed Shevchenko. in monumental, idiotic fashion. So
35-year-old champions haven't had a great run. I know that Irene Aldana is 35 herself. I'm just saying she hasn't ever tasted that gold. Tyron Woodley was fresh in terms of his motivation, and he came and blasted the doors off of what's his name? Robbie Lawler, right? Fresh off a couple fights of the year. But then what happened to him? The fresh young guy, Kamaru Usman, came in and took everything that he ever worked for away from him. And what happened to him? Leon Edwards, the guy he had beaten 10 years ago, comes back. It's the cycle. That's the game that we're playing. And I think Amanda Nunes right now is back on the public perception of she can't lose. She's the best. So, all right, let's find out.
It was an extremely dominant performance over Pena the last time. I mean, I always think back of that video of Pena running forwards and then Nunes go bop, and she just flies away.
Dude, that's the most comical fight ever. I can't believe it. I bet on Juliana Pena there. But again, it's because we all have different styles. One of the angles I will constantly be on, you'll see me do this a million more times, and I try to be very diligent about not forcing it. But when I think a champion is meeting the end of their run, I'm willing to take the step. I'm willing to be wrong 2 or 3 times in a row, because we just mentioned the Alexa Grasso one. I was there on Talia Santos when she should have won, when she did win, by the way, when she did win at plus 400 and they didn't give me the money. So then I was there again and I said, no, we'll keep playing until I win. That was how I felt about it. So I bet Juliana Pena last time out because I said to myself, Amanda Nunes, is she going to have 3 more wins at the title level? Is she going to have 5? I don't see that. I'll be there waiting.
Women's flyweight, honestly, is like low-key stacked right now, if you think about it. Grasso, Shevchenko's still there. Blanchfield, Andrade is still there. And I'm probably blanking on a million other names, but great division.
One of my proud moments, January something of 2022, I tweeted out, 2022 will be Shevchenko's last year as flyweight champion, and I listed as the reasons Talia Santos, Erin Blanchfield, Alexa Grasso, and Macy Barber, I think. And people were yelling at me, how is Macy Barber in this tweet? I'm going to, all right, maybe she's still got to.
Barber's the one that maybe doesn't believe. You ever see that meme of like a bunch of things? One doesn't
One
belong.
of these things is not like the other. Yes, for sure. I had gave like a tier, though. It's like the top 2, Santos and Grasso, and then the others, the rest in tow, the up-and-comers, the young ladies.
I feel you. But all right, guys, that's the show. That's 11 fights. Unfortunately, that's all we've got for this card. But we've got Beneil Dariush and Charles Oliveira to look forward to. So it should be a great time. Thank you, as always, to Liam for coming on. I'll pass him the mic in a second in terms of what I've got going this week. This show, I'm going to do my best to do a PFL show. I'm also busy right now a bunch because I'm studying for the bar, whatever. So I'm doing my best. I think I will get it done. And then in terms of all the other regionals happening, I won't do a video, but I'll put up my picks and then hopefully write-ups. And I am hoping to get the Substack back. It is pay-per-view week, so the panel is back this week. Me and Patrick are going live on Thursday with Tim Troiano and screw me. Who's the second person? I don't remember. Don't tell them. I don't remember off the top of my head. I'm a tired man. But that's going to be a ton of fun. And then I think Thursday as well, we'll have to let you guys know. Me and Prop are going to do Prop Talk on Twitter Spaces. I think we're moving into Thursday just because Friday is packed with Twitter Spaces. So that's the plan. Thank you again, Liam. Why don't you plug yourself and we'll head on out of here.
Appreciate you, my man. Had a blast. Always fun shooting the breeze, talking about these fights. Think it should be a fun pay-per-view week. So if you guys are interested in more information from me, you can always find my stuff at Liam Picks Fights everywhere. Just started in terms of the audio-only grind. A lot of people have been getting on me in my comment section and everything, bro. When is this coming out as a podcast? It's now available on podcast. So that's Spotify, that's Apple Podcasts, all that stuff. Search Liam Picks Fights. You should be able to find it. And I appreciate the support. So thank you guys very much. You can find the premium work at the Lab VIP, track third party, betmma.tips. 3+ years of profitability, knock on wood. Let's keep it rolling.
Hell yeah. All right, guys. Good luck this weekend with any bets, any promotions you are betting on, and peace out.